So welcome today, everybody. My name is Valerie Piper. I'm the interim director of the Inland Empire APEX Accelerator. For those of you that do not know where the Inland Empire is, it's in Southern California, Riverside and San Bernardino County. We welcome you today to a contractor's guide to cybersecurity with our friends from Project Spectrum. Today, your hosts are 10 of the United States APEX accelerators. Norcal APEX up north. There I am in Inland Empire, Monterey Bay, Guam, Alaska, California Capital, North Olympic Peninsula, the Golden State PTAC, Nevada's Governor Office of Economic Development, and our Hawaii APEX. So as you can see, there's a broad group of us here. I'm assuming most of you that are here are already our clients. If you're not, we hope to make you one soon. And just a reminder that our APEX accelerators are funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the Department of Defense, which is why we can provide all of our services at no charge to small businesses. Just a short overview of what the APEX accelerators do. We have a broad range of services that we offer, from basic services as SAM registrations and certifications to market research, helping you find buyers, see who your competitors are, procurement opportunities, to marketing with your capability statements, strategies, tools, and resources, to procurement with the acquisition process, regulations, and proposals. We don't write your proposals for you, but we are willing to look them over and give you a rough draft and give you suggestions. And then post-award government systems, audit and reviews, and contract management. There are other services that we provide, but these are just some of the touch points that each of the APEX accelerators provide at no charge. If you have any questions about the APEX services, please put them in the chat. We will have time to address them at the end of the hour. We want to thank you, all 10 of us want to thank you for being here today and supporting the APEX services, as we love supporting you. Now I would like to introduce you to our friends at Project Spectrum. Here's a short overview of what you are going to hear about today. And let me turn it over to Derek, who's going to do the briefing. Thank you for being here, Derek.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Let me go on camera. I don't know if everyone can see me. Okay, let me share my screen here. Give me a second.
So tell me where you're from, Derek, because I was told that you wanted to be here today because you have you're either from here or you, what did he say? He says okay. you have roots here in our community.
Yeah, so Derek Davis, I'm Director for Industrial Cyber Security for the Office of Small Business Programs for the Department of Defense. So though my office is in the Pentagon and all the folks on the Project Spectrum team report up into me, I'm the program director for Project Spectrum. But I live in the Bay Area. And so I go back and forth to the Pentagon and do a lot of outreach across the United States. So this location, California is near and dear to my heart. And so I thought that since a lot of folks in here are in California, I was actually in Hawaii last week at the Pacific Defense Summit, Contractor Summit out there. I did Gold Coast and San Diego. So I'm trying to build out here on the West Coast. So any opportunity I have to either speak in person or speak virtually, I try to take on those opportunities, because a lot of times I'll have someone from my team go and do some of these talks. But this time I felt it was a need for me to actually join in myself.
Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be a part of this. Okay, so if you guys are ready, I can go kick this off.
Yep, it's all yours.
Okay. So let's see. Let me see. Can you guys see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So from a cyber threat landscape perspective, as of August of this year, small businesses were compromised more than 70%, or sorry, 70% of the businesses within the DIB makeup for the small businesses and from a contract perspective. 43% of the cyber attacks are targeted towards small businesses, and 25% of the overall DoD prime contracts are awarded to small businesses. But that first number is misleading. During COVID, a lot of small businesses were unable to do business with us for various reasons. COVID made it challenging. The previous administration didn't staff the Office of Small Business and didn't have as much outreach during the 4 years of the previous administration. And the current administration has done an excellent job of bringing in folks that can help out small businesses. The current administration, more specifically, believes that small businesses are the way for innovation for our country, and that we should be focusing on that base, right? So I was appointed to do part of that, to bring awareness and outreach for small businesses from a cybersecurity perspective. Why small businesses are targeted? Well, we know that small businesses have access to sensitive government information. We know that because as you're going through the process of bidding on contracts, a lot of you are former employees of the defense, veterans, and you've procured contracts before. We know that sometimes small businesses may have bad security posture from a cyber perspective, just because maybe they're not an IT company, maybe they're a landscaping company, maybe they're a product company that doesn't focus on technology, and they just don't understand or are aware of how the impact that cybersecurity has on sensitive data and information. Obviously, there's a lot of intellectual property there as well. The third thing is connecting with larger defense contractors. We also know that small businesses, a lot of times they're sub to primes. We know that if you're a small business, you connect with a large prime. Let's use Lockheed Martin as an example. If you connect with Lockheed, there's an information share there. There's IP there. There's CUI or classified, controlled unclassified information. And there's FCI being transferred between both entities. And that could be an issue in terms of data just sitting around in old laptops and such could be potentially be breached. Let me move this chat box out the way. Okay, also focus on production and meeting deadlines. We know that, especially here in Silicon Valley, the companies here are focused on innovation and getting products to market. We know that small businesses is the same, focusing on product to market, focusing on building your business. And a lot of times cybersecurity is not the forefront. Okay, so what's the role of the federal government? So our role is to strengthen cybersecurity best practices at every stage. I'm a firm believer of one hand washing the other. So if I help you, therefore you're helping another small business, and so it goes on. But from a cyber perspective, we realize that if I help you get your cybersecurity house in order, that means that you're willing to talk about it, get your information in your organization secure, but you'll also expect your third-party contractors or your third-party suppliers to be more secure. We understand that the adversaries strike at every phase of the life cycle, and the companies must ensure their supply chain is secure. So I would imagine at this point, if the folks on this call have heard of CMMC 2.0 and self-assessments, the model authorizes for self-assessments for level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is an annual assessment for contractors that handle FCI, and level 2 is for contractors that handle CUI. And that's on a third party for every 3 years for third party assessment for CUI prioritized acquisition. So the first level 1 is 17 control areas. It's a self-assessment, and either we or as the DoD or the prime contractor will take your word for it that you've done that self-assessment, you understand the posture that you have, and you're willing to disclose some of the gaps that you may have. So that's that. And I think, if you can, start taking these steps towards certification and alignment with NIST and CMMC, it makes your company more attractive in terms of wanting to procure contracts. So for cybersecurity for small businesses and the DIB. So DoD supported initiative. So Project Spectrum is a DoD supported initiative. So our office, or my office, funded this with the mind that if we're not going to force you to focus on cybersecurity if we're not supporting you, right? So we decided to design this program to essentially help small businesses get their cybersecurity house in order. Project Spectrum provides a comprehensive, cost-effective platform for cybersecurity information, resource tools, and training. Its mission is to improve the cybersecurity readiness, resilience, and compliance for small businesses across the DIB. So it was developed with small businesses in mind. So we want to increase that compliance. We want you to be able to be attractive to the primes and to other agencies. And we want you to be able to compete while also protecting your data. We also wanted to be at no cost to the user. So there's actually no cost. So what that means is you could go to projectspectrum.io, create a username and password, and start using the resources today. There's training and education, there's videos, there's product knowledge in there, there's cyber advisors that can help you figure out how to go on your compliance track, or if you have questions around cybersecurity. Let's see here. Some of the offerings, like I mentioned already, is the cyber advisor. I think the cyber advisor is a cool feature. They usually respond between 48 and 72 hours if you have a question centered around cybersecurity. We have in-house developed cybersecurity training program. We have self-assessments for CMMC and NIST. We also have that strategic partnership and mentor protege program pilot. If you enroll in the mentor protege program, which I don't know if some of you are in that program or not, but if you're in that program, you get tied to Project Spectrum automatically, and then you also get tied a cyber advisor. Obviously, we do community outreach and engagement, which I'm doing right now. Let's see here. And right now, we're also developing tools behind the scenes that can help with your compliance journey. Okay. So some of the partnerships and services that we work with Department of Air Force, Department of Army, Navy, and Marine Corps. We also work with DCMA, which is the Defense Contract Management Agency, as well as CISA, Counterintelligence and Security Agency, DLA, and NSA. From another collaboration perspective, we work with the Mentor Protege program, which I've already mentioned, but we also work with the Manufacturing and Extension Partnership, which is a self-directed cybersecurity platform for manufacturers. We know that OT security and that whole manufacturing, there's a lot of systems that have antiquated tech built in, and cybersecurity breaches are at a high in those areas. So we're working with the Manufacturing and Extension program to ensure that we can get that industry well on its path to better cybersecurity hygiene. And then we also work with the SBA. So back to compliance and CMMC. So within Project Spectrum, there's cyber readiness checks that help determine the baseline security levels based on where your company is today. And I've already mentioned level 1 and level 2. Here is NIST 800-171. NIST is what CMMC is essentially based off of. If you are familiar with NIST, it's a good baseline to get your company on the path to certification. It provides recommended security requirements for protecting CUI, confidentiality, and applies to non-federal systems and organizations that process, store, transmit CUI. Project Spectrum also provides diverse expertise and resources. We can help with a security gap analysis, a systems security system plan, also a POAM, which is the plan of action and milestones, and a security enclave and a architecture assessment. I've already mentioned the cyber advisors and the training and education, so I won't go there. We can handle some of that in the Q&A. Project Spectrum also has a developed and robust security training program. So within that program, there's courses on CUI for contractors, plan of action and milestones, CMMC level 1. We're also creating CMMC level 2. I just spoke with my team this morning on that. We have some videos coming up on YouTube and through Project Spectrum that you'll be able to view here pretty soon. There's over 26 micro courses. Some of the micro courses are less than 1 minute. Some are for 5 minutes. And it's just a pure core training on CMMC and NIST. There's also DIY tools enabling companies to conduct self-assessments, which I'll cover here shortly. So the dashboard here, it's pretty visual here. So the column on the left is the cyber readiness check progress. And what that does, if you do an assessment based on NIST 800-171, it'll give you a progress on your journey on that, as well as CMMC level 1, 2, and 3. It also gives you results back in your score. The good thing about the score is you could take that score and either put that on your website, your business card, or on your business resume. And when you meet with large or primes, you can talk about this and say, hey, we are NIST compliant based on these standards and based on this assessment that we conducted internally. And you can provide the source as well. Also, it will track your results and your history. So say today you are, you're at 80 or 75%. Maybe your goal is to get to 100% compliant in 6 months. You can do that. And here's this product set here. And within this product, you can essentially do a bake-off between 3 to 4 products at a given time. So say you need to get a SIM, or you need to either email application or a compliance system to help with your compliance journey. Within that product, you can search and see if that product is in Project Spectrum. And then also you could do a bake-off. You could compare and contrast what that product looks like as compared to some of its competitors in the space. So one of the last things I want to focus on is foreign ownership, control, and influence. So what's really important for defense is we want to ensure that we're protecting our best interests. As you know, what's happening in Ukraine right now, China, and some of our other communist countries out there, and especially with technology, they're having shell companies in the United States that are ran by foreign interests. Now, the citizen may be a president based in the United States that wants to do business with defense, but the money may come from an outside source. That outside source could be from a country that doesn't like the United States, that could cause harm, and we're trying to prevent that. We realize that 50% of espionage within the U.S. manufacturing is due to some sort of foci. When I go around the country speaking about this interest in particular, I know that a lot of you are competing against companies that are owned by folks that are not based in the United States. And sometimes you feel that you're losing business because of that. We're trying to fight that, not only for the best interest of the United States, but also the best interest for our small business. We really want innovation to happen in this country. I kind of talked about mentor protege already, and I talked about NIST and CMMC and that accreditation process. Also, behind the scenes, I have my team working on a secure cloud, which I'll talk about probably more next year as I make my rounds. I'm scheduled to speak at probably a good 100 events next year. And as the year goes, as we get closer to the election, it'll be very key for us to ensure that we are getting our programs and our small businesses ready to compete, because we want to ensure that there's a lot of political things happening. There's a lot of things happening in the world right now. And we want to ensure that there's technologies and small businesses that are being heard. And we want to get those folks and those technologies incorporated in our future. So how Project Spectrum differentiates itself from similar service providers. So as I mentioned, we have those cyber advisors. We also have those practitioners that are skilled in different disciplines, whether it be compliance, engineering, also business process, former CISOs, CTOs, CIOs, and they're sponsored by us. So I support these folks. They're vetted, and we bring them on because we trust their skill set. Let's see. I want to slide through this. Okay, how to get in contact with my team. So we have projectspectrum.io, which I mentioned, which is registered and it's free to create an account. I hope some of you have done that already. You can begin your self-assessment on day one, see where you are. We can meet you where you are, help you through that process. To reach out to my team directly is outreach@projectspectrum.io. We're on all the socials, and I'm on LinkedIn. You can connect to me directly. And within Project Spectrum also, there's upcoming events that will presentations and webinars like this one. Also, larger events that we speak at. I'll be in San Antonio next week at the same conference. And I'll be keynoting with a major general in the Army, talking to a society full of engineers that probably have small businesses like yours that want to innovate and do business with us. So that's it for me. Anyone have Q&A, or I'll turn it back over to the host?
There's a few questions, Derek. I got one in a private chat. It says, what are the requirements of if a contractor doesn't have access to FCI or CUI? Is CMMC for everyone or just those with FCI and CUI access?
Yeah, so right now, CMMC is, it's in rulemaking right now. It's being reviewed by OMB. So right now, it's something that I wouldn't say you have to ignore, but on the path to certification, I would pay close attention to NIST 800-171. If you're not handling FCI or CUI now, you don't need CMMC. But I would say that from a certification and accreditation perspective, I think it's important that you stay in line with NIST and look at what it takes to get on that path. I see someone here, Charity Hudson, mentioned that I think it's important to mention self-assessments. Self-assessments are key. It's the entry into SPRS. We have that here inside Project Spectrum that could help you with that. So that's a good point, Charity.
Derek, can you briefly discuss what FCI and CUI is?
Sure. FCI is federal contract information, and CUI is controlled unclassified information. So FCI is essentially information that exchanging information with the contract based on contract or procurement. It's not necessarily any intellectual property. It's not any PII. CUI, on the other hand, can be it could be IP, it could be PII, it could be information that is germane or particular to that contract. So if there's a contract announcement, an RFP about supplying something, maybe there's CUI in there. It just all depends. The rulemaking on CMMC, that's a question here from Tommy Q. Right now, it's in rulemaking, it's being observed. We're thinking it's going to take effect sometime in 2025. I've heard anything from July to October 2025. If you're working with a large prime or you're working with an office that they say you need to be CMMC certified, that's virtually impossible at this point because it's not actually it's under review now. But what they can say is enforce NIST. And so again, if someone says that, you would like to have more information because we're not there. Here, Tess Wong, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be reading the questions or you're supposed to.
That's fine. Go ahead, and then there's a few in the Q&A that I'll read you.
Okay, so this will be my last one, and I'll turn it back over to you. So Tess Wong says, are PS services free to government contractors? Absolutely. Project Spectrum is free. Believe it or not, the Project Spectrum team does speak to non-government contractors, and they do reach out and try to get folks to want to do business with the government. So you can absolutely register, and you don't need to be a government contractor to do it.
Nice. So there's a question in the chat or the Q&A. Who is eligible to join the DoD's Mentor Protege program as a protege?
Yeah, so that's I would yield to the Apex team here with that. There's a process that you have to go through to get to be in the MPP program. But I think first is to join your APEX Accelerator, schedule time with those folks, get on board there. And then there's a path and there's a process and there's a few check boxes that you have to do in order to get there. But I don't want to speak on behalf of the Apex team. So we can take that offline, and I could direct you to the Apex that you're assigned to based on where you are located in the country.
And then there's another question. How does what you provide differ from, say, a GRC tool?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So it's a big difference. Well, firstly, our tools, the Project Spectrum is free and funded by the government. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't invest in a GRC tool, right? Because maybe in going through Project Spectrum and actually doing a self-assessment and seeing where you are, maybe there's an investment that your company needs to make to get compliant, and maybe a GRC tool can help you with that. So, but through Project Spectrum, you can also see what GRC tools are out there, and you can do a compare and contrast based on price. You can even ask some of the cyber advisors, and maybe they can tell you which one a low cost one that we recommend. Obviously, there's some free ones out there as well, just depending on where you are in your journey, how we can help you with that.
Well, it looks like that's the end of the questions. Does anybody that's online have any questions for Project Spectrum or any of the services that the APEX accelerators offer? There's another question just popped up. This one says, we are a technology services company supporting clients for their SWIT development efforts. Being a small business, we have provided small limited support in the area of cybersecurity to our clients. What chances do we have to be able to participate in this program?
Which program? Project Spectrum? Which program? Sorry.
I'm not sure. Go ahead, Shivani. Which program are you? Project Spectrum, or I believe Project Spectrum.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yes. You're able to get involved with Project Spectrum. You could, as soon as we jump off this Zoom, you can log in and you can get started. And you could go through that process and see where you are. So that's absolutely, your company is what we want in defense. We want to do business with folks like you. We hope you're providing a service or has an innovative product that can make the U.S. better, and we're all for that.
There's another question. Is there a straightforward way to determine if an RFP has FCI?
Yeah. If you read the opening statement, it should say that. And then the one thing that I like to tell folks is, the contracting officer or the person responsible on the procurement team, those folks, and it's very challenging, I know, because they're generally really guarded. But if you can forge or form a relationship with those folks, call them, email them. I was in Hawaii last week, and someone asked a question to SCIC, who was there, and one of their procurement officers was there. So she took issue with some of the small businesses and how they communicated with her. And so I had to tell her that, when you have a small business, you're just trying to go where you get the best feedback, where you get positive feedback. You want to understand that growing a small business is very challenging. And if you go somewhere and you keep hitting a brick wall, you're not going to keep going there. So I say forge relationships with the procurement. But the one feedback she gave was, be precise in your ask. Make sure you leave precise messages if you're going to call them directly. If they have a mobile, send them a text message. Be precise, be persistent. They say that there was an example that a company used that they couldn't get an answer back from procurement and on a question. And they said that their email was going into spam. So they scheduled a meeting with this procurement officer, and they brought a can of spam to the meeting and said, hey, here's my business card, and here's a can of spam. And they actually emptied out the spam in the can and put all their business cards and taped their business cards to the actual spam can and left it on the person's desk, right? But that persistence is what you get, because if you have a question, my point is, if you have a question like that, a CUI question or an FCI question, you want to get it asked. If it's not in the opening statement and the RFP, then you want to be able to ask someone directly.
Like we have a couple more. I registered and completed the assessment in Project Spectrum. How to get my company CMC certified now?
Yeah, so Project Spectrum does not certify you officially. So the certification for CMMC is going to come through, well, firstly, again, CMMC is in rulemaking, so it's impossible to get certified there, right? And so what it's going to look like, it's being reviewed now by OMB. So OMB may review it within the rulemaking right now, and they may come back out with some more things that we need to change. Right now, I'm on the CIO team, on the IG team in the Pentagon, and reviewing it. I was just on the IG meeting last week. Trust me, it's continuous inside about CMMC. So right now, I'm not going to say I wouldn't worry about it, but right now it's not a certification that you have to get today. There's some time for you to get your cybersecurity hygiene in order. There's some time for you to understand what CMMC 2.0 is going to look like. Right now, all the literature out there is just information that's TBD. We still can't truly advise on that yet.
What kind of training does Project Spectrum provide? Is it training to get in compliance, or is it training for companies looking to assist companies as an advisor or consultant?
That's a good question. I think the answer is all of the above. I think firstly, it's kind of like one of those things on the aircraft, put on your life preserver first. I think it's kind of the same thing here. You have to make sure your organization is where they need to be, right? Before you advise others. But absolutely, I think that's the goal of Project Spectrum. If you are trying to get your cybersecurity house in order, you want to ensure that you get a business or a company that you're willing to go to market with, they're doing the same thing. So if you feel confident that you can help someone else, absolutely do it, but bring them into Project Spectrum too, because it's for everyone, right? So we stand by that, and we have enough dollars set aside to support it. So
should we register on Project Spectrum as an individual or organization member for our company?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So, if you're the company owner, I would assume you're not going anywhere. So you can register directly. If you're an employee of the company, that's different. You can register for yourself, but you can also register for the company as the company too. It's entirely up to you. It doesn't matter how and who you register. I mean, that really doesn't matter. I mean, I would say, like I said, if you own the company, obviously you're not going anywhere. If you're an employee of the company, people transition and move on, so you never know. But I would assume that there's a transition plan with the company, so another person could sign on.
Somebody said, one of my clients stated they lost a contract on the DIB system because they did not have CMMC level 1 certification or self-assessment test. Where does a small business submit their self-assessment test?
Yeah, that's in the your self-assessment should be, well, we have that system, SPRS system. You can do it there, but I don't know if you could lose a certificate. Well, CMMC level 1 is just self-assessment. I have to taste. I always get that word messed up. Yeah, level 1 is just 17 controls, and that's you're just self-assessing there, and you're just providing that self-assessment. So I don't know if someone could tell you that. Our office, there's not an office in defense that would do that unless you just didn't provide that. And you can just send that in with your response to the procurement that you're responding to, unless it's a prime that says something like that. So I'm not sure.
Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Derek, we thank you for your time today. As you all know, there's 10 of your APEX accelerators online today. So if you have any further questions about Project Spectrum or DoD Mentor Protege, please reach out to your prospective APEX accelerator, and they can help you out. And then Amanda did just put a link in the chat where you can find your Apex Accelerator that's for you. Hold on, another question. Oh, that said, somebody just said, thank you so much. So we thank you again for your time today. Again, reach out to your prospective Apex Accelerator if you have additional questions, and if it's things we cannot answer, we will get the answers for you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. It's almost over. And for my PTAC Apex Accelerators that are online, I hope to see you all in Washington, D.C. in about a week.